So first and foremost, don't pay any attention to what's on the screen. I'm just playing a video game while I ramble to myself. I went insane once. And I'm not saying that somebody made me angry and just like drove me crazy or something. No. I mean I literally went insane. And the psychologist told me that I experienced like a brief psychotic episode. Let me start from the beginning. It's kind of hard to talk about. I have mania, Asperger's, a anxiety disorder. I have bipolar. But throughout my life, I didn't know that. I thought that I had ADD, ADHD. Um, and whenever I was around 14, I was misdiagnosed as still having ADD, but they were wrong. Now, being a person with Asperger's, I tend to obsess about things. So I was obsessing about a story that I like to write called Sapia. I'm not going to get into the details of the story because that's not the point of this video. But I wrote this story constantly for a period of, well, I didn't necessarily write it constantly, but it was always on my mind during like a 4 day period when I got no sleep. I wasn't even tired. Just sleep just wasn't even in my fucking vocabulary. And I didn't get hungry either. I was just constantly thinking about it and thinking about it and thinking about it. And, you know, I just kept on and kept on thinking. I got to the point where I was watching a movie and I couldn't watch for 5 seconds without thinking about my story. I saw the movie Sucker Punch, but I didn't really see it. I watched it somewhat recently and thinking, oh, I didn't even remember. I don't remember any of this because all I could think about was my story. What does this do? I don't know what that does. Whatever. Switch to recon. Anyway. I had a roommate at the time. He no longer lives here, but I was trying to convince him that my story was good. And I was obsessed with my story. I was really obsessed, heavily sleep deprived, and it was just all round a bad situation. So, in my weakened state, I believed that I would write my story and it would basically just be a masterpiece and everybody in the world would love it. You know, just saying real crazy stuff. And so then I tried to convince my roommate, and my roommate got agitated with me, and I blew up on him. I started screaming in his face. I just kept yelling "fuck you" to his face over and over again, just screaming at the top of my lungs. And then immediately just saying, "Wait, I didn't mean to say that. I'm sorry, whatever." And I remember the look on his face was just pure shock, like he just wasn't expecting it. So that night, I wrote something on the computer, and I wrote it for him so he could see it, so he knew what my true feelings are. And he it, the thing I wrote went into detail about my opinion towards him and how I interpreted certain things that happened and whatnot. And so he read it, then went straight to his room. I went. I was in the bathroom at the time when he passed and went into his room, but hold on, sorry. I went over to the computer and there was a little piece of paper. Well, it was a laptop. There was a little piece of paper in the laptop. I looked at it and there was a single tear on it. There was a single tear on it, and my roommate didn't say anything to me at all. And in my mind, I'm thinking that my little writing that I made just for him made him cry, made him really sad, made him really regretful for what I believed at the time. I blamed him for certain things at the time, and I believe, okay, I was like, yeah, I just, yeah. So I spent all night worrying about him, thinking he was gonna kill himself. Actually, I believed that, and it's insane to think back now just how far I'd fallen into madness. But I believed that he wanted to kill himself, and so yeah. Well, I wrote something on my computer after he went to bed, basically forgiving him for how he made me feel in certain situations. And I was so convinced that that particular writing thing I made would would just get him right in the heart. Know that we'll always be friends. And I couldn't wait. I stayed up all night, and I ended up um. Where's a drink of water? I need some water. I ended up writing really stupid notes like I forgive you, this and that, whatever. And I also sent him a text saying all that, and I'd completely forgotten about the perfect little thing I wrote on my computer, or at least I believed it was perfect. Instead, I went in his room while he was sleeping, or like early in the morning, must have been around 8 a.m. And he woke up, and I said, "Look, I forgive you." And he gets really, really angry with me. He said, "You forgive me? You forgive me?" And it was, it just angered me so bad. I started screaming at him, like all the ridicule that I'd faced in school, and him reminding me of that, and just all sorts of stuff. I basically just let out all of my aggression, and it felt like I was setting myself free. But then my roommate did something that I never would have conceived of. He showed a look of pure fear on his face. I knew then, in that moment, he thought I was going to kill him. He was suddenly terrified of me. He saw a side of me that he never saw before. And I had no intention of striking him. I did not strike him. I just yelled at him, is all I did. But I guess it was just something that he never would have expected from me in a million years. Because I'm not an explosive type of angry person. I'm implosive. Whenever I finally snap, I snap. So, so he gets really angry. I mean, not angry, but really fearful of me. And I'm like, okay, what did I do here? So I run out of the house. I call 911. Remember, I'm very sleep deprived at this point, and I tell them that they need to lock me up because my friend thinks that I want to kill him, and I have no intention of doing so. So the police came to me, and I was just completely expecting them to just point their guns and say, "Get on the ground," but they were very friendly about it. The police even went to our house, and and it was surreal. I said, "Well, you have to lock me up or something because he thinks I'm gonna kill him." And I didn't say it at the time, but I thought he was gonna hurt me too. I believed he had good enough reason to kill me because of how fearful he was. So the cops are talking to me. Meanwhile, there are other cops at the house talking to him. And I get there, back at the house, and it was so surreal. It was like nothing happened. It was like absolutely nothing happened. He hugged me, asked if I was okay, and that was the end of it. Well, I don't mean the end of it, but and there you go. It completely blew my mind. And on that day proceeded, basically just me feeling like I went a little crazy just then. And that night, I discovered the truth. I'm not going to go into details, but my roommate many years ago was wronged very badly by somebody. And my roommate told me that when I was yelling in his face while he was in bed, well, not yelling in his face, because that would be kind of awkward to do, but, yelling at him while he was lying in bed. He said that whenever I did that, he stopped seeing me, and he saw the man who did those horrible, horrible things. And he had a panic attack because and a hallucination. And all the while, I thought it was me that he was scared of. So all throughout the day, I was wondering if he could forgive me. I kept asking for his forgiveness, and he said, "Okay, everything's fine, man. Everything's fine. Don't even worry about it." So, what the hell? Oh well, just a cat. Anyway, later on that night, I later on that night, sorry, just this is just hard to talk about. Later that night, I started feeling afraid, really scared, and I didn't know why. I had no clue what I was scared of. And then, all of a sudden, it hit me. I finally discovered why I was so scared. Because I barged into the room, yelled at him, and made him have a panic attack, an hallucination, show the most horror in a person's face that I'd ever seen when I'd written a perfect, perfect memo, if you could call it, on my computer. That would have changed everything between us, and he would understand everything, and it would be much better for both of us. And I suddenly realized, it suddenly hit me. My roommate has a motive to kill me. And that very well is what he might do. That's what was my thinking at the time. So, I ran as far as I could, and then I took out my phone and called 911 and said, "Hey, I called earlier today, and I think my friend is gonna kill me." And I told them, they're like, "Why? Why would he do that?" Because I gave him reason to. Because whatever. I started basically just saying different crap. Just like I wasn't making any sense. I was like babbling over the phone. And I started to get agitated because I felt like I was kind of screwed, like I was going to die, and I deserved to die. And that's what I felt, that I deserved to die, and I was going to die. And so I got really agitated. I screamed obscenities as I threw my phone on the ground. Then I just stood around waiting for the police to show up, and naturally they weren't very happy with me, saying that, 1 minute I was fine on the phone, and the next I was screaming at the phone operator, or whatever you call it. Um, I I waited for the cops, and they got there, and I kept making up bullshit stories. But it wasn't like I was trying to lie. No, I believed in those stories. I wanted them to just let me go, and just because I could maybe give my friend a few days and he would calm down. That was the idea at the time. But as I started going more and more crazy, just having more and more crazy ideas and believing them, it whittled down to finally, I believed that my story, the story that I'd been writing for fun, the story that I wanted him to like whenever he got really agitated with me, I suddenly believed that he'd wanted that I'd wanted him to read my story and like my story, and since he didn't care for it, then I wanted revenge. So I worked up a fantasy in my mind. Now, this didn't happen. This never happened. But I believed that I had written a note that would convince my roommate to kill himself. And suddenly, I just had to go back there. And police were letting me go, But then I just screamed back at them, "Wait, wait!" Started running back and said, "My story." And the cop gets fed up finally and says, "Okay, no more talk about your goddamn story, okay?" But whenever I, whenever we got back to the house, the cops had driven me there. I was in the back of the squad car, in the back of the cop car, and I kept believing that my friend was going to come out of that house with a loaded gun to shoot me in the head. So then I started to forget about my other fabrication that I wanted him to kill himself. I no longer believed in that lie. I no longer believed in that bullshit. So I wasn't trying to save him. Suddenly, I was fearful for my own life because how much I made him fearful, made him hallucinate. And keep in mind, I was not in a sense sound in a sound state of mind. I know he would never hurt anybody. My friend is a good guy. He'd never hurt anybody. He'd never kill anybody, obviously. And well, at the time, I was making up crazy bullshit and believing it. So there you go. So I'm in the cop car. Next thing I remember, the cops are leading me to the front door. And as I'm walking onto the porch, I suddenly have a new bullshit fantasy. What if I what if I already wrote all of this down? This is really starting to seem like something I would write. Did I predict the future, write it all down, and then forget about it? So then, I had a hallucination. My brother, my roommate, not brother, my roommate said that, said, I don't remember what, but I hallucinated and he seemed like really happy to see me and all this. And I was like, oh my god, I really did write this. So then I get back to being afraid that he's gonna kill me again. So the door opens, and I hallucinate again. And he says, well, he's been trying to get us to read his stupid story, but we're not really interested. And again, it was just a hallucination, a crazy, batshit insane hallucination. Then I blacked out. I blacked out and attacked him with police present. It was later revealed to me that during my blackout, you are not my friend. You are said such person. The person who did those things to him. And I attacked him. That's what I that's what I've been told. I'm not entirely sure. But I believed I tried to kill him. I can't say for sure whether or not I tried to kill him or not. I don't know. But I think in theory, I think I intended to murder him. I think I have a very vague memory of someone, an officer saying something to the effect of, stop or I'll tase you. I have like a vague memory of that, just those words. But nothing else, just blackness, just nothing. Next thing I remember, they have me sitting on the table while my friend is in the hallway or in his room, I'm not sure, one of the two, talking to another officer. And I didn't remember what it was that I did. I had no clue, but I knew it was bad, and I knew that I needed to mend fences. So I started running, trying to run to my friend, and the cop held onto my arm, would not let me go. So what did I do? I rammed the cop as hard as I could. So he grabs me, throws me to the ground. No, well, the floor, right in the living room, puts handcuffs on me. I said, finally, you listen to reason. And next thing I remember, the very next thing I remember is just sitting in the back of the cop car in handcuffs, suddenly believing in a brand new bullshit reality. That is when the so-called psychotic attack began. Because I believed that I had written a story. I believed that I had wrote everything that was happening. And coincidentally, it was taking place. Completely taking place, like all of it. Just everything happening up to that point, everything after, just everything. I predicted it all. The story was on my computer. I was going to be executed. I would be, though that story would be discovered on my hard drive, and I would go down as the greatest writer of all time. But there was no such story. Keep that in mind. I didn't write anything. Obviously, it would be bullshit anyway, but I didn't write anything. I just believed I did. Probably because I realized I'm going to prison now for attempted murder, assaulting a police officer, and who knows what else. And like I said, I don't know if I did attempt murder, but I don't know. I just don't know. But So I stuck to that reality I I'd fabricated because I believed going down in infamy and being executed and becoming super famous posthumously is, if I don't know if I said that word right, but it sounds a lot better than going to prison. So I just went with it, and I just yelled at the cop because I heard ACDC on the radio. I yelled at him. I said, "That's right, you motherfucker. This is the song you play every time you send somebody to you take somebody to get executed. Did you hear me right? You fucking bastard. I am better than J.K. Rowling. Stephen King and J.K. Rowling don't got fucking shit on this." And I just kept screaming incoherently. I basically had like having a god complex. Like I may as well have believed I was God. I believed I was gonna go down as a writing author god. So then he takes me to the hospital. I didn't really realize that I was in the hospital. I don't know exactly where I was. I think I vaguely realized I was in the hospital, and I was still just screaming obscenities and just yelling. And so then I I start saying just all sorts of shit, and I ended up in this room. The cop put me in there. I still had handcuffs. I had a window I could see through, but the door was locked. And I'm just yelling obscenities at everybody. Yelling at everybody I see through the window. Then, for some reason, I start banging my head against the glass of the door. Well, that gets the attention of one of the male nurses. He runs in there and says, "Get back against the wall right now." And so I'm like, "Woo! Wait, what's on my head?" I was like, "What's on my head?" There's got like a mark on it, right? He said, "Get against the wall." Is there a what's on my head? It's an X. Now get against the wall. And I said, "Oh fuck! I thought it was a lightning bolt." See, I suddenly believed I had written all the Harry Potter series. See, it was just believing one crazy lie after the next and seeking validation for it. That chopper was awful low there. And so then my pants fall down because I didn't have a belt and my pants were too damn big for me. And so the nurse says, "Get against the ground." I mean get on your knees. I mean, he tells me to get on my knees and I'm like, "How?" Because I'm handcuffed. I can't really put my hand on the floor first. It's kind of awkward. So what I did was I went over to the wall and kind of pressed myself against it so I could have some leverage as I got to my knees, because I don't want to just fall on my knees and hurt myself, you know. And next thing I know, I'm on a bed and I'm being strapped down, and I thought, this is it. This is it. I'm about to be executed. And I was so happy because I knew at my bullshit story that doesn't exist. The story where I predicted the future was gonna be told, seen, and loved for hundreds of years to come. And I'd be the writer that wrote his own execution. And I remember my pants had fallen down, so my penis came out of my shorts. And I said, "Can one of you put a hat on my dick?" And then see a cop was there, and I guess he was trying to not rile me up, just make me more cooperative. He said, "Well, come on, man. You wrote the story. We gotta follow the script." And I said, "Do you not have a mind of your own?" And I was just overjoyed and just really happy and just all that. Next thing I knew, it was the next morning. And it felt like I'd just experienced a nightmare. The worst nightmare of my life. I woke up with a catheter in my penis. They took out the catheter so I could go use the restroom. And initially, the initially the nurse was very rude. Obviously, because he expected me to be a dick and yell and shit. So I can understand why he was a little bit short with me and kind of an asshole. Now, he wasn't really being an asshole, he was just expecting the worst out of me, so he acted accordingly. But when he realized I wasn't, whenever he realized I was totally calm, I was fine. Everything went fine. But everything, I thought, but everything was fine, between me and that nurse. And I was not sentenced for anything. I wasn't tried for anything. As far as the police were concerned, there were no charges needed to be made because I was insane. I understand that the uh, the nurses and the staff were gossiping, saying, "Oh yeah, that guy's definitely on drugs." The person who told me this was my mother. I wasn't on any drugs, people. No drugs, no alcohol, nothing. I wasn't on any of that. So the fact that I rambled all this crazy shit without um narcotics of any kind was just something very unusual to them, extremely unusual. And they told my mom, "I've seen sleep deprivation. This ain't sleep deprivation. Something else is going on." And that day, I was diagnosed with mania and Asperger's syndrome, which is a form of autism. And I spent, I don't know, like a week in this facility, kind of like a mental institution. And there were various people there. There were schizophrenics, there were people who believe in just crazy shit. There were also drug addicts there, as it's like a I don't know, like a rehab sort, kind of like a rehab sort of thing. And all I wanted was my friend's forgiveness because I knew what I did was bad. After a few days, I did finally hear from him, and he said, everything's okay between us. And then I felt vindicated. I had the vindication I wanted, and I felt better knowing that I was forgiven. And then I went home. What's that? Oh. But I was never entirely sane after that. Every once in a while, I would just, for no reason at all, have a sneaking belief that I was about to turn hostile for no reason. Like I was going to black out again and attack somebody. Before my friend finally moved out, he got really angry with me about something else, which reminded me of how I got him mad at me before. And it just reminded me of all that, and it scared the shit out of me. I thought that I was about to black out and hurt him or hurt somebody. So I ran to the house, called 911, and I ended up back in that place. I was in the hospital on a bed saying, "Oh my God, I'm I'm gonna kill somebody and I'm gonna spend the rest of my life in prison." I didn't want that, and just really horrible, horrible shit. And what was I saying? I got distracted by that message. And so I ran. I was just so scared. And I started to believe. What if it's all fate? What if I'm fated to kill someone? And then, while I was in the hospital, I started experiencing deja vu. Like, I mean, serious deja vu, where something happens, you believe it happened before, but it's like you just got reminded of it. That's deja vu, and I kept experiencing that over and over and over. I always lose track of what I'm trying to say. And every once in a while, I get afraid that something is going to control me. And I always end up calling 911, having the cops come over and talking to me about it. An episode happened just what yesterday, as a matter of fact. I thought I saw something that looked or heard something that looked suspicious, and the thought just came to my mind. This is it. This is when I go on a killing rampage, and it scared me to death. So I call 911. The police came, and the police were able to talk me through what was going on with me and my anxiety, and I was better. And I've, this isn't the first time I've told this story. I told this story to a fellow YouTuber. Well, actually, he's on Twitch, but a fellow YouTuber, I guess you could say. And he said, I think you have a screw loose. We're not friends anymore. Not that we ever really were close to begin with, but whatever. Um, and then a guy that I'd been playing, Mass Effect 3 with for a long time says to me, "Look, I gotta go." Uh, and I'm like, "Really? What? What I say? Did I say something wrong? I'm almost done. Just let me finish my story." And he said, "No, I have to go to bed." And so I was really worried that I said something to throw him off, and so I asked him at one point, "Did I didn't freak you out thinking that, did I? I'm sorry that I shared that." And he said, "You didn't freak me out. Just next time, keep it to yourself." And a couple of days later, having had no contact with him leading up to that event, leading up to said event, he defriended and blocked me. Yep, he defriended and blocked me. So I don't have any idea what this video is gonna cause. There could be repercussions. I could piss off family members. I don't know if I'm gonna have any subscribers after this. I mean, I have very few as it is, and they're probably gonna say Mike the Manic Autist is a manic autist and he's fucking crazy. I hope that doesn't happen, but with my luck, it probably will. So, yeah, I guess this is pretty much over. Goodbye.